Well, I'll be talking to Professor Adriano Nuvunga in just a moment. And this is Cabo Delgado Province in northern Mozambique has seen escalating extremist violence. The situation endangers tens of thousands of lives and has destabilized northern Mozambique. Professor Adriano Nuvunga joins me now from Mozambique. Prof, thank you for your time. So let me start with a statement coming out from the communique of the SADC heads of state and government having come out of their summit in Lilongwe in Malawi. They basically just noting the situation and commending those countries that have contributed either personnel by way of military personnel as well as financial resources towards trying to bring the situation in Cabo Delgado and northern Mozambique in general under control. In your opinion, has SADC stepped up to the challenge, or even if it is, albeit a bit late, to stepping up to it, are we seeing a situation where regional leaders are stepping up to the plate?
Good afternoon, viewers of the NSA. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Indeed, we commend SADC for deploying military personnel and making some resources available to support Mozambique fight violent extremism in northern Cabo Delgado. That has come a little too late. Nevertheless, it is important because fighting violent extremism, it takes time. It is not a one-shot intervention. There is also the Rwandese who are in place. They came a bit earlier outside the framework of SADC, and the joint forces have been successful thus far. So it is indeed a commendable operation. There are challenges, of course, in terms of coordination, in terms of adherence to the international humanitarian law, and relationship with communities. But up until now, it's a successful operation and it's commendable.
So, Prof, I want us to talk about the challenges that you flag in just a moment, but let me stick with the theme of SADC a bit longer. One of the issues coming out of the SADC heads of state communique talks about Tanzania offering to host a regional terrorism operations center to basically try and ensure that all the countries of SADC are always on top of the situation when it comes to terrorism and extremism. How important a move is that, given, for instance, the whole proximity of northern Mozambique to Tanzania, as well as the linkages between some of these groups that are active in East Africa, but also now in northern Mozambique?
That is an important move to see happening. Until recently, Tanzania was failing to participate in some of the very important platforms that SADC has been organizing. I recall here the Troika meeting in Harare in 2019 that Tanzania failed to attend, but also there are issues, cross-border issues with Mozambique, with some of the people seeking refugee in Tanzania being returned in the border with Tanzania. And we believe that it is in a concerted efforts under the banner of SADC that some of these challenges can be addressed. So it's important to see that Tanzania is not only stepping up to support Mozambique directly, but it's offering to harbor such a center, which is vital for the future of SADC as it concerns to violent extremism.
Lastly, Prof, we've been observing the dramatic developments out of Afghanistan in the last few days, but many people will forget for a moment that actually we've had a situation developing in Cabo Delgado in northern Mozambique in the last 3 to 4 years, if not even longer. You were talking about some of the successes that have been scored by the collaboration between the countries of SADC, as well as the contributions by the military personnel from Rwanda. But you flag some challenges. You mentioned coordination and issues of adherence to international humanitarian law. Expand a little bit on that and what it means for bringing lasting stability to Cabo Delgado.
By that we mean the need for the boots in the ground to take into account that that conflict, it speaks to some domestic grievances related to violations of human rights, understanding the right to development as one of the fundamental human rights, but also to disenfranchisement by different groups, including the youth. So the behavior of the foreign troops in relation to different groups, also understanding the diverse and multi-ethnic context of northern Cabo Delgado, it is important on the one hand. On the other hand, it is adhering to important international principles when it comes to all. And I would like to remind you of the Amnesty International report on human rights issued last year, clearly pointing out to violations by the then private military groups, which have exacerbated the conflict. So these are some of the issues against which we are calling for the current countries supporting Mozambique's effort to adhere to the international human rights law, but also to respect communities, because some of the problems there speak to extractivism and elite-centric extractivism. And we have seen in other countries where foreign troops, they also end up engaging in extractivism and fueling the grievance that have helped to start the conflict at the beginning. And last is the issue of coordination and the need for dialogue. The lessons from Afghanistan, they're important for Mozambique. While political leaders and big investors, they can be happy to see militaristic approach as they offer a sensation of victory in the beginning of operations. But it is dialogue. It is improving governance in addressing the core of the root causes that helps to preempt the factors of the war, and it helps to pave the way for sustainable ending of the conflict.
All right, Professor Adriano Nuvunga, I really appreciate your time, and I've really enjoyed this engagement. Important nuances coming through there from Professor Adriano Nuvunga about the situation in northern Mozambique, drawing, of course, also on the lessons of what we've seen developing in Afghanistan in the last few days, also bringing us an update on a situation that's closer to our doorstep.